Hey, it's Kathy. Happy November. And we're still in Inktober, but happy November. And thank you for being here. Hey, let me get my other... Let me get real quick. This is what we did yesterday, by the way. Mary Wollstonecraft Shelley. I'm just going to get up my YouTube so I know you guys can hear me. And then we're going into Zora Neale Hurston. I am so excited to explore her life and to learn about her and to get into who she is as a person and her beliefs, and she's interesting. She's wild. And I'm very excited to do her. And she's also a beautiful writer. I can't even pick a quote. I don't even have a quote yet. I have... I mean, it's kind of like an embarrassment of riches because she has so many that are good that I would be interested in doing today. So let me stop talking and get going on just finding my stream here. Do you hear people outside my house? What are they doing? Are we even on yet? Hold on. Right next to a queue. Okay, we have volume. We're on, as far as I know. Okay, hold on. And do I have... Wait. Yes. We're here. Okay, great. I think you guys can hear me. I think you guys can see me. And let's do this. So, Zora Neale Hurston. Let's just go right in, shall we? This is going to be a good one. I mean, aren't they all good? Most of them are good. Most of them are fascinating. And this is no exception. Amazing life. I've learned so much about people over the past month. Just reading their biographies on Wikipedia. It's amazing. Okay, let's do this. Okay, scroll. Zora Neale Hurston. She was born in January 7, 1891. She died January 28, 1960. She was an American writer, anthropologist, folklorist, and documentary filmmaker. She portrayed racial struggles in the early 20th century American South and published research on hoodoo and Caribbean voodoo. I think that's how you say voodoo. Voodoo. Let's see if we can get a pronunciation. This is the pronunciation key. I just like to know that I'm saying things right because that's a respect, you know? Haitian voodoo. And I didn't have a sound thing, so let's just keep going. Let us keep going. The most popular of her 4 novels were Their Eyes Are Watching God, published in 1937. I'm going to bring the mic closer so you can hear me better. She also wrote more than 50 short stories, plays, an autobiography, ethnographies, and many essays. Hurston was born in Notasulga, Alabama, and moved with her family to Eatonville, Florida in 1894. She later used Eatonville as the setting for many of her stories. In her early career, Hurston conducted anthropological and ethnographic research as a scholar at Barnard College, which is an all-female college, and Columbia University. She had an interest in African American and Caribbean folklore and how these contributed to the community's identity. She also wrote about contemporary issues in the Black community and became a central figure of the Harlem Renaissance. Her short satires, drawing from the African American experience and racial division, were published in anthologies such as The New Negro and Fire, which was a magazine, and we'll talk more about that later. After moving back to Florida, Hurston wrote and published her literary anthology on African American folklore in North Florida, Mules and Men, 1935, and her first 3 novels, Jonas Gourd Vine, 1934, Their Eyes Were Watching God, 1937, and Moses, Man of the Mountain, 1939. Also published during this time was Tell My Horse, Voodoo and Life in Haiti and Jamaica, 1938, documenting her research on rituals in Jamaica and Haiti. Before we move down further, I just want to click on to Harlem Renaissance and read a little bit, because we all might think we know what Harlem Renaissance was, but let's find out what Wikipedia tells us it is, because that'll give us a better all-encompassing view, okay? It's a movement. The Harlem Renaissance was an intellectual and cultural movement of African American music, dance, art, fashion, theater, politics, literature, and scholarship centered in Harlem, Manhattan, New York City, spanning the 1920s and 1930s. What I mean is, it's a word that's thrown around a lot. You hear it a lot, but how often do you hear an actual definition? You don't usually. You hear it as a reference point. So let's learn a little bit about Harlem Renaissance. At the time, it was known as the New Negro Movement, named after the New Negro, a 1925 anthology edited by Alain Locke. He'll come up later, too. He's known as the grandfather of the Harlem Renaissance, among other things. This movement also included the new African American cultural expressions across the urban areas and in northeastern United States and the Midwestern United States, affected by a renewed militancy in the general struggle for civil rights, combined with the great migration of African American workers fleeing the racist conditions of the Jim Crow Deep South, as Harlem was the final destination of the largest number of those who migrated north. Okay, that's something I didn't know. I love learning new things. And that is a new thing. So Harlem was the final destination of the largest number of those who migrated north. So it makes sense. It all makes sense now, geographically, right? Though geographically tied to Harlem, few of the associated visual artists lived in the area itself, while those who did, such as Aaron Douglas, had migrated elsewhere by the end of World War II. Many Francophone black writers from African and Caribbean colonies who lived in Paris, France, were also influenced by the movement. Cool. Let's find out what Francophone. I think it's French. Yes, French. Okay. So many French black writers from African and Caribbean colonies who lived in Paris were also influenced by the movement. That's great. See, it spread wide. It spread wide in a time with no internet, with different modes of communication that were not as robust as what we have now. So it was a movement, the world felt it, and it spread worldwide, right? Paris were also influenced by the movement. Harlem had also seen significant black immigration from British, French, and other colonies in the Caribbean. The zenith of this flowering of Negro literature, as James Weldon Johnson described the Harlem Renaissance, took place between approximately 1924, when Opportunity, a journal of Negro life, hosted a party for black writers where many white publishers were in attendance, and in 1929, the year of the stock market crash and the beginning of the Great Depression. The Harlem Renaissance is considered to have been a creative crucible for African American art making and its institutionalization within white-dominated museums and cultural institutions. Excellent. Okay. And we will see callbacks to this when we talk about Zora. Okay, let's go back to Zora now. Cheers. That coffee's good. Nice and hot today. Okay. She also wrote about contemporary issues in the black community and became a central figure of the Harlem Renaissance. Her short satires, drawing from the African American experience and racial division, were published in anthologies such as The New Negro and Fire, and we'll talk about Fire a little bit later. After moving back to Florida, Hurston wrote and published her literary anthology on African American folklore in North Florida. Mules, okay, we already did this. Mules and Men, 1935, and her first three novels, Jonas Gourd Vine, 1934, Their Eyes Were Watching God, 1937, and Moses, Man of the Mountain, 1939. Also published during this time was Tell My Horse, Voodoo and Life in Haiti and Jamaica, 1938, documenting her research on rituals in Jamaica and Haiti. Hurston's works concerned both the African American experience and her struggles as an African American woman. Her novels went relatively unrecognized by the literary world for decades. In 1975, 15 years after Hurston's death, interest in her work was revived by author Alice Walker, who published an article in search of Zora Neale Hurston, later retitled Looking for Zora in Ms. magazine. In 2001, Hurston's manuscript Every Tongue Got to Confess, a collection of folk tales gathered in the 1920s, was published after being discovered in the Smithsonian Archives. Her nonfiction book, Barracoon, The Story of the Last Black Cargo, 2018, about the life of Cudjo Lewis, in parentheses, Casola. I don't know what that means. Let's click into Cudjo and see real quick. Cudjo Cazola Lewis. Okay. Was the third to last adult survivor of the Atlantic slave trade between Africa and the Americas. Together with 115 other African captives, he was brought to the United States on board the ship Clotilda in 1860. The captives were landed in backwaters of the Mobile River near Mobile, Alabama, and hidden from authorities. The ship was scuttled to evade discovery and remained undiscovered until May 2019. Okay. There we go. Wait, May 2019. But okay, the ship was discovered in May 2019, and her book was published in 2018. Interesting, right? So the ship was discovered a year after. Okay. The Life of Cudjo Casola Lewis, one of the last survivors of slaves brought illegally to the U.S. in 1860, was also published posthumously. Her early life. Zora Neale Hurston was born in 1891, the fifth of 8 children of John Hurston and Lucy Ann Potts Hurston. All 4 of her grandparents had been born into slavery. Her father was a Baptist preacher and sharecropper, who later became a carpenter, and her mother was a schoolteacher. She was born in Notasulga, Alabama, on January 7th, 1891. This was her father's hometown, and her paternal grandfather was the preacher of a Baptist church. When she was 3, her family moved to Eatonville, Florida. In 1887, it was one of the first all-black towns incorporated into the United States. Cheers. Cheers to that. Hurston said that Eatonville was, quote-unquote, home to her, as she was so young when she moved there. Sometimes she claimed it as her birthplace. A few years later, in 1897, her father was elected as mayor of the town. In 1902, he was called to serve as minister of its largest church, Macedonia. I'm not sure if it's Macedonia or Macedonia, Missionary Baptist. In 1901, some northern school teachers visited Eatonville and gave Hurston several books that opened her mind to literature. She later described this personal literary awakening as a kind of birth. So this was in 1901 when she had her birth, her rebirth, right? And she was born in 1891. So 1901, she was 10 years old. When she was 10 years old in 1901, some northern school teachers visited Eatonville and gave Hurston several books that opened her mind to literature. She later described this personal literary awakening as a kind of birth. As an adult, so 10 years old. As an adult, Hurston often used Eatonville as a setting in her stories. It was a place where African Americans could live as they desired, independent of white society. Hurston grew up in Eatonville and described the experience in her 1928 essay, How It Feels to Be Colored Me. Eatonville now holds an annual Zora with an exclamation point festival in her honor. Hurston's mother died in 1904. Okay, she was 13. Her father married Mattie Moge in 1905. This was considered scandalous, as it was rumored that he had had sexual relations with Moge. Moge. I'm not sure if it's Moge or Moge. Before his first wife's death. Let's just call her Moge. Before his first wife's death, Hurston's father and stepmother sent her to a Baptist boarding school in Jacksonville, Florida, but she was dismissed after her parents stopped paying tuition. In 1916, Hurston was employed as a maid by the lead singer of a touring Gilbert and Sullivan theatrical company. In 1917, she resumed her formal education by attending night school at Morgan Academy, now known as Morgan State University, a historically black college in Baltimore, Maryland. At this time, to qualify for free high school education, the 26-year-old Hurston began claiming 1901 as her year of birth. She graduated from the high school in 1918. So she was 26 and she was pretending to be 16, and that's remarkable. And gutsy, right? College and graduate, all for education, right? All to better herself. I love that. And good for her. College and graduate studies. In college, I mean, that alone is like a movie or a book, right? College and graduate studies. In college, Hurston learned how to view life through an anthropological lens apart from Eatonville. One of her main goals was to show similarities between ethnicities. In 1918, Hurston began her studies at Howard University, a historically black college in Washington, D.C. She was a member of the Zeta Phi Beta sorority, founded by and for black women. She was also the first in her family to attend college, meaning that she was a first-generation college student. While at Howard, Hurston co-founded The Hilltop, the university's student newspaper. She took courses in Spanish, English, Greek, and public speaking, and earned an associate degree in 1920. In 1921, she wrote a short story, John Redding Goes to Sea, that qualified her to become a member of Elaine Locke's literary club, The Stylus. We're going to have to click into Elaine Locke soon because I want you to know who he is. He's a big person in the Harlem Renaissance. He was known as the Godfather. Let's just do it now. Elaine Locke. Elaine Roy Locke was an American writer, philosopher, and educator. Distinguished in 1907 as the first African-American Rhodes Scholar, Locke became known as the philosophical architect, the acknowledged dean of the Harlem Renaissance. He is frequently included in listings of influential African Americans. On March 19, 1968, the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. proclaimed, "We're going to let our children know that the only philosophers that lived were not Plato and Aristotle, but W.E.B. Du Bois and Elaine Locke came through the universe." So we should do him sometime because I'm really interested in learning about Elaine Locke and his life. So let's go back to Zora and we will put a pin in Elaine Locke for later. Okay? Okay, so in 1921, she wrote a short story, John Redding Goes to Sea, that qualified her to become a member of Elaine Locke's literary club, The Stylus, at Howard, right? We're at Howard University right now. Before leaving Howard in 1924, Hurston helped publish the inaugural issue of the school newspaper. She also joined the Howard Literary Club, where she published her first two short stories. Despite this success, Hurston paid for school by working as a manicurist in the evenings. Go Zora. In 1925, Hurston was offered a scholarship by Bernard trustee Annie Nathan Meyer to Bernard College of Columbia University. She was the sole black student in this women's college. Hurston assisted Meyer in crafting the play Black Souls, which is considered one of the first lynching dramas written by a white woman. She conducted ethnographic research in anthropologist Franz Bose of Columbia with anthropologist Franz Bose of Columbia University, and later studied with him as a graduate student. She also worked with Ruth Benedict and fellow anthropology student Margaret Mead. Hurston received her BA in anthropology in 1928. This will all come into play later too, because she does a lot more anthropological ethnographic studies. Elaine Locke recommended Hurston to Charlotte Osgood Mason, a philanthropist and literary patron who had supported Locke and other African-American authors such as Langston Hughes. However, she also tried to direct their work. So this woman wants to, support the work, but now we're hearing that she also tried to direct their work, and that is not what you want to do when you're supporting an artist's work and an artist's vision. Mason became interested. That was my own little footnote there. Mason became interested in Hurston's work and supported her travel in the South to research from 1927 to 1932. With a stipend of $200 per month. In return, she wanted Hurston to give her all the material she collected about Negro music, folklore, literature, hoodoo, and other forms of culture. Hurston's 1927 to 1932 travel in the South was also backed by the Association for the Study of Negro Life, nowadays known as the Association for the Study of African American Life and History, and the American Folklore Society, which collectively granted her with up to $1,400. At the same time, so she was getting a personal grant, right? She had a patron, Mason, and then she also was getting, supplemental income to do her research from Association for the Study of African American Life and History and the American Folklore Society. So this is something that comes up in her life a lot. She knows how to get grants. Like she did a very good job of being able to get people to support the work that she was doing and let the work shine, and the work is here. And she did a lot of anthropological type work. So it's really fascinating and to read about all the work that she's done, and that she's very good at getting people to see her vision and getting people to support. It's great. It's refreshing. You know what I mean? At the time, Hurston needed to satisfy Boas as her academic advisor. Boas was a cultural relativist who wanted to overturn ideas about ranking cultures in a hierarchy of values. After graduating from Bernard, Hurston spent 2 years as a graduate student in anthropology working with Boas at Columbia University. Let's back up a little bit. I want to remember who Boas is. Because, we find a lot of people here and then I forget who they are. Let's just keep going. Living in Harlem in the 1920s, Hurston befriended writers including Langston Hughes and Countee Cullen. Her apartment, according to some accounts, was a popular spot for social gatherings. I don't doubt that. I think she was very a connector person, clearly, because she knows how to connect people and connect her people to her ideas. You know what I mean? Like, you hear of connectors in the Tipping Point guys writing. It's one of those people that connect other people that you know. And that does sound like she was one of those types of people who just had that electricity about them and was able to connect people. Around this time, Hurston had few literary successes. placing in placing in short story and playwriting contests in Opportunity, a journal of Negro life published by the National Urban League. And I love that she kept herself out there, you know, like she was not shy, or she got over any, if she had insecurities and stuff, she just did it, you know. That's a lesson for all of us, you know, just do it. Marriages. In 1927, Hurston married Herbert Sheen, a jazz musician and a former teacher at Howard. He later went to medical school and became a physician. Their marriage ended in 1931, so 3 to 4 years. In 1935, Hurston was involved with Percy Punter, a graduate student at Columbia University. He inspired the character of Tea Cake in Their Eyes Were Watching God. I haven't read that book, so I have a lot of reading cut out for me from all these authors that I'm reading about. In 1939, while Hurston was working for the WPA in Florida, let's just dig into that. WPA, the Works Progress Administration, from 1935 to 1939, then known as the Work Progress Administration from 1939 to 43, was an American New Deal agency that employed millions of job seekers, mostly men who were not formally educated, to carry out public works projects, including the construction of buildings and roads. Okay. So it was set up on May 6, 1935 by presidential order as a key part of the Second New Deal. Okay. Roosevelt, right? Okay. In 1939, while Hurston was working for the WPA in Florida, she married Albert Price. They separated after a few months, but did not divorce until 1943. So she was married for years, on paper only, after her first marriage ended. The following year, Hurston married James Howell Pitts of Cleveland. That marriage, too, lasted less than a year. Hurston twice lived in a cottage in Eau Florida in 1929 and again in 1951. Patronage and support. When foundation grants ended during the Great Depression, Hurston and her friend Langston Hughes both relied on the patronage of philanthropist Charlotte Osgood Mason, a white literary patron. During the 1930s, Hurston was a resident of Westfield, New Jersey, a suburb of New York, where her friend Hughes was among her neighbors. Let me digest that. Hold on. During the 1930s, Hurston was a resident of Westfield, New Jersey, a suburb of New York, where her friend Hughes was among her neighbors. Okay, so her and Langston were buds. Yeah. So there's a common thread. Okay. So she would have white literary patrons who would not only support her work, but who would work to bring her work to a more diverse audience, you know? So she had this experience with Charlotte, and she also had this experience back when she was in school. I think it was at Bernard. The woman that she wrote the play with, right? Where is this? She wrote the play. The woman, what was her name? Are we there yet? Annie Nathan Meyer? No. Hurston was offered a scholarship. Okay, no. Yeah, Annie Nathan. Okay, Black Souls. Hurston assisted Meyer in crafting the play Black Souls, which is considered one of the first lynching dramas written by a white woman. She conducted ethnographic research with anthropologist Franz Boas. Sorry about that. That's my ring. I gotta put on my hold on one second. I just gotta put on my do not disturb. Okay, good. We're back. Hopefully my screen didn't go black. It may have. But I think we're back now. Okay. So this is, repeating. And this is part of the whole philosophy of the Harlem Renaissance is pushing the culture into the mainstream. And that is what this is supportive of. Like that is what Hurston, what Meyer was one of her patrons in doing so, because Meyer took her play, okay? So white woman writing a play about lynching, okay? And you cannot, that just would not happen now. It just wouldn't, because you need to be a part of the experience to know, but I don't think it would anyway. That's just my opinion. But Hurston was her, thread to that. So, okay, let's back down again. Patronage and support. Here we are. When foundation grants ended during the Great Depression, Hurston and her friend Langston Hughes, we already read this, both relied on the patronage of philanthropist Charlotte Osgood Mason, a white literary patron. During the 1930s, Hurston was a resident of Westfield, New Jersey, a suburb of New York, where her friend Hughes was among her neighbors. I'm not sure why they threw that in there. Maybe just to say that, like, hey, Hurston and Hughes were buds, and they were like all simpatico together. I want to read a little bit about Charlotte Osgood Mason, just to give us a little broader, like a more enriched view of like what's going on here. Okay, let's just read the quickie. Read the quickie up here. Charlotte Osgood Mason, born Charlotte Louise Vanderveer Quick, May 1854 to April 1946. So she was like a good 50 years older than Zora. She was a white American socialite and philanthropist. She contributed more than $100,000 to a number of African-American artists and writers of the Harlem Renaissance, equal to more than $1 million in 2003. This was especially critical during the Great Depression, when foundation support declined. She helped young artists become established. Okay, so yay, Charlotte. Academic appointments. In 1934, Hurston established a school of dramatic arts based on pure Negro expression at Bethune-Cookman College, a historically black college in Daytona Beach, Florida, later to be known as Bethune-Cookman University. In 1956, Hurston received the Bethune-Cookman College Award for Education and Human Relations in recognition of her achievements. The English department at Bethune-Cookman College remains dedicated to preserving her cultural legacy. I love that. She established a school of the dramatic arts based on pure Negro expression. That's excellent. She's done so much. Like, she's added so much that we don't even know. Like, you don't even realize her impact that she's had and all these things that she did in her life. It's amazing. For the 1939 to 1940 academic year, Hurston joined the drama department of the North Carolina College for Negroes, now known as North Carolina Central University in Durham, North Carolina. At the beginning of her tenure, hold on, I got to roll that around for a second. She joined the drama department of the... Sometimes when you're reading, you're not like absorbing. So I need to just once in a while take a minute. I did read a lot of this. I skimmed it a lot earlier, but I didn't skim this part. Hurston joined the drama department of the North Carolina College for Negroes, now known as... Okay. At the beginning of her tenure, Hurston published a new book, Moses, Man of the Mountain. She also separated from her second husband, Albert Price, at this time, although their divorce would not be finalized until 1943. See marriages section. Yes, we already did that. And we know that she was legally married on paper, but she was not in a marriage at this point. She was living alone as a, divorced person, basically. for all intents and purposes. During her time in Durham area, Hurston primarily participated in a variety of thespian activities, marking her lasting interest in Black folkloric theater and drama. On October 7, 1939, Hurston addressed the Carolina Dramatic Association, remarking that our drama must be like us, or it doesn't exist. I want to build the drama of North Carolina out of ourselves. She noted that her students were largely supportive of this endeavor because many of the plays performed and viewed by them previously were not relatable to their own experiences and instead prioritized a highbrow view of society. Let's do this. Oh, let's do that, right? That's a little better. She taught various courses at NCCU, but she also studied informally at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill with Pulitzer Prize-winning playwright Paul Green. Does Paul Green come up again? I don't know, but I want to find out a little bit more about who this guy is. He was an American playwright. Okay, so he was around her age. He was born March 1894. He was an American playwright whose work includes historical dramas of life in the North Carolina during the first decades of the 20th century. He received a Pulitzer Prize for drama in his 1927 play In Abraham's Bosom, which was included in Burns Mantle's The Best Plays of 1926 to 27. And she was working with him around the early 30s, so he had already been prized when they were working together. His play, The Lost Colony, has been regularly produced since 1937 near Mantioch, North Carolina, and the historic colony of Roanoke. Its success has resulted in numerous other historical outdoor dramas being produced. His work is still the longest running. Okay. Let's go back, and now let's read more here. So, okay, Pulitzer Prize winning playwright. Okay, they already told us that. She taught various courses at NCCU, but she also studied informally at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill with Pulitzer Prize winning playwright Paul Green. Cool. She was also mentored by Frederick H. Koch, another faculty member at UNC and the founder of the Carolina Playmakers. She initially met both writers at the inaugural 1934 National Folk Festival in St. Louis, Missouri. She was persuaded by them to move to North Carolina for the prospect of collaboration with UNC faculty and students, despite the fact that UNC was still segregated and did not begin formally admitting Black students until 1951. So that must have been interesting, huh? I'm sure she's so used to pushback, but yet she's just goes. She just keeps moving forward. It's great. I mean, she must have had an amazing personality and excellent communication skills. Because her formal participation was limited, Hurston became a secret student, participating in coursework and theater groups without enrolling in UNC. The Daily Tar Heel, UNC's student newspaper, even named Hurston as a student in one such course, which focused on radio production. So they acknowledge her. They're proud that she is there because she's adding to the fabric of the community and to the enrichment of everybody's education, yet she's not a student on paper. Interesting, huh? Hurston left NCCU after 1 year to pursue a new fieldwork project in South Carolina. It is likely that her departure was partially due to her poor relationship with NCCU's president, James E. Shepard, to which she briefly alluded in her 1942 autobiography, Dust Tracks on a Road. To Shepard, Hurston's attire and lifestyle choices were inappropriate for an unmarried woman, leading to many disagreements. Her severance was rumored to be the only thing that they could apparently agree upon. I'm going to take a sip of my water. Okay, so he didn't like her. Dude did not like her. I think she wasn't white enough for him or something. I mean, that was that, if that's the case, he was just, oh my God, wait, what am I talking about? He's a black guy. Is he a black guy? Okay. All right. Okay, I stand corrected, and now I'm embarrassed that I said that. Because this guy, NCCU's president, James E. Shepard, let's read a little bit about him. Let's read that again. Hold on. I want to roll this around. It is likely that her departure was partially due to her poor relationship with NCCU's president, James E. Shepard, to which she briefly alluded in her 1942 autobiography, Dust Tracks on a Road. To Shepard, Hurston's attire and lifestyle choices were inappropriate for an unmarried woman, leading to many disagreements. Her severance was rumored to be the only thing that they could apparently agree upon. Okay, so we didn't know that she was actually... Oh, she was getting paid as a teacher. Okay. It sounded to me like, because they said she was a secret student. But, I think you guys are able to, probably absorb more than I am right now because I'm reading it. So, but let's look at James Shepard a little bit. Just to get a little bit here. James Edward Shepard, 1875, to 1947. So he was 20 to 25 years older than her. Was an American pharmacist, civil servant, and educator. The founder of what became the North Carolina Central University in Durham, North Carolina. He first established it as a private school for religious training in 1910, but adapted it as a school for teachers. He had a network of private supporters, including northern white philanthropists such as Olivia Slocum Sage of New York. He was the school's first president and remained its leader for nearly 40 years. By 1923, he secured state funding for it as a normal school to continue the training of black teachers. But then why? Segregation. I'm confused. After programs and classes were added to create a 4-year curriculum, in 1925 it was renamed North Carolina College for Negroes, becoming the first liberal arts college in the nation for black students to be state funded. Wait a minute. This is very confusing here. In 1925, it was renamed North Carolina College for Negroes. Hold on. Let's back up. So this school, which NCCU, it's not North Carolina. I'm a little thrown here because she was at NCCU, right? But now they changed the school. They changed the name of the school. And here it was segregated. UNC was segregated. Okay, is that a different school? I'm confused, guys. Hurston left NCCU after 1 year to pursue... Okay. Let's move on. I got to put a pin in that for later because I'm confounded a little bit here with all of this. Okay. I'm confused, but let's just keep going. And hopefully you're not confused like I'm confused. In 2015, UNC students called for Sanders Hall, named after former Ku Klux Klan leader William L. Saunders, to be renamed Hurston Hall in recognition of Hurston's contributions to academic life in the Durham Chapel Hill area. UNC trustees controversially voted to name the building Carolina Hall instead, but it is still known informally by many students as Hurston Hall. Despite the brief nature of her residency in North Carolina, Hurston is still honored at a variety of events in the area, including readings of her work. In 2024, Bree L. Davis received funding from the Southern Documentary Fund to produce a podcast documenting Hurston's experiences in the Durham Chapel Hill area. And then it says forthcoming. So maybe you can check that out on Spotify, or, look for this podcast. It might be out now. This was written in 2024, but somebody hasn't updated it. They wrote forthcoming. So, okay, requires further research. Okay. I really would like to understand what's going on here. She taught various courses. Sorry, I'm just trying to figure it out quickly before we move on, but that's not going to happen. So let's go to anthropological and folkloric fieldwork. Hurston traveled extensively in the Caribbean and the American South, and she immersed herself in local cultural practices to conduct her anthropological research. Based on her work in the South, sponsored from 1928 to 1932 by Charlotte Osgood Mason, a wealthy philanthropist, Hurston wrote Mules and Men in 1935. She was researching lumber camps in North Florida and commented on the practice of white men in power taking black women as concubines, including having them bear children. This practice later was referred to as paramour rights. Paramour rights. Based on the men's power under racial segregation and related to practices during slavery times. The book also includes much folklore. Hurston drew from this material as well in the fictional treatment she developed for her novels, such as Jonah's Gourd Vine. Isn't that fascinating? I didn't not know anything about this lumber camps thing. Lumber camps. Before the second half of the 20th century, these camps were the primary place where lumberjacks would live and work to fell trees in a particular area. Camps were often placed next to river tributaries so that the winter's log harvest could be floated to the lumber mills in the spring. Okay. And now let's click into paramour rights. Sexual slavery and sexual exploitation is an attachment of any ownership right over one or more people with the intent of coercing or otherwise forcing them to engage in sexual activities. This includes forced labor that results in sexual activity, forced marriage, and sex trafficking, such as the sexual trafficking of children. Sexual slavery has taken various forms throughout history, including single-owner bondage and ritual servitude linked to religious practices in regions such as Ghana, Togo, and Benin. Moreover, slavery's reach extends beyond explicit sexual exploitation. Instances of non-consensual sexual activity are interwoven with systems designed for primarily non-sexual purposes, as witnessed in the colonization of the Americas. This epoch, characterized by encounters between European explorers and indigenous peoples, saw forced labor for economic gains and was also marred by the widespread prevalence of non-consensual sexual activities. Okay, so we now know what this is. It's sexual slavery. That is paramour rights. What a fancy way of saying sex slavery. Okay. So she got a lot of information from that and wrote a book. And just had this research done. In 1935, Hurston traveled to Georgia and Florida with Alan Lomax and Mary Elizabeth Barnacle for research on African American song traditions and their relationship to slave and African antecedent music. She was tasked with selecting the geographic areas and contacting the research subjects. In 1936 and 37, Hurston traveled to Jamaica and Haiti for research, with support from the Guggenheim Foundation. She drew from this research for Tell My Horse, 1938, a genre-defying book that mixes anthropology, folklore, and personal narrative. I love this. I want to read it. I want to listen to it. In 1938 and 1939, Hurston worked for the Federal Writers Project, a part of the Works Progress Administration. That was part of the New Deal, remember? back a bunch of paragraphs ago. Hired for her experience as a writer and folklorist, she gathered information to add to Florida's historical and cultural collection. Isn't it cool that she stays in touch with people? Maybe she got this gig because she knew she had kept her connections with the WPA, right? Just speculating. Music makes up a significant portion of the material she collected for FWP, including Crow Dance, a Bahamian American dance song with the West African roots, the Gullah Geechee song, Oh, the Buford Boat Done Come, and the folk song John Henry, performed by Gabriel Brown. So she's preserving history here. Like, that is what she's doing. This is really important, and it's like kind of the thankless work, because this is the stuff. I'm glad we're talking about her, because you remember a song or something, but you don't remember who saved it. You know what I mean? And she's preserving. From May 1947 to February 1948, Hurston lived in Honduras, in the north coastal town of Puerto Cortes. She had some hopes of locating either Mayan ruins or vestiges of an undiscovered civilization. Lofty goals. I love it. She had some hopes, I'm going to read that again, of locating either Mayan ruins or vestiges of an undiscovered civilization. While in Puerto Cortes, she wrote much of Seraph on the Sewanee, set in Florida. Hurston expressed interest in the polyethnic nature of the population in the region. Many, such as the Miskitu Zambu and Garifuna, were of mixed African and indigenous ancestry and had developed Creole cultures. Great. During her last decade, Hurston worked as a freelance writer for magazines and newspapers. In the fall of 1952, she was contacted by Sam Nunn, editor of the Pittsburgh Courier, to go to Florida to cover the murder trial of Ruby McCollum. McCollum was charged with murdering the white Dr. C. Leroy Adams, who was also a state politician. McCollum said he forced her to have sex and bear his child. Hurston recalled what she had seen of white male sexual dominance in the lumber camps in North Florida. Remember the paramour rates, the sexual slavery, and discussed it with Nunn. They both thought the case might be about such quote-unquote paramour rights and wanted to expose it to a national audience. Upon reaching Live Oak, Hurston was surprised not only by the gag order the judge in the trial placed on the defense, but by her inability to get residents in town to talk about the case. Both blacks and whites were silent. Or I should say both whites and blacks were silent, because, you know, you could reasonably expect that you would probably not find a lot of white people who wanted to talk, but even the black people didn't want to talk. She believed that may have been related to Dr. Adams' alleged involvement in the gambling operation of Ruby's husband, Sam McCollum. Ruby McCollum, the woman who, you know, the woman who is on trial for murdering the guy. Just to help you remember if you're confused by going back here. Okay. Her articles were published by the newspaper during the trial. Oh wait, let me read that again. She believed that that might have been related to Dr. Adams' alleged involvement in the gambling operation of Ruby's husband, Sam McCollum. Her articles were published by the newspaper during the trial. Ruby McCollum was convicted by an all-male, all-white jury and sentenced to death. Hurston had, this is in the 50s, she was sentenced by an all-white, all-male jury and sentenced to death. Hurston had a special assignment to write a serialized account, the life story of Ruby McCollum, over 3 months in 1953 in the newspaper. Her part was ended abruptly when she and Nunn disagreed about her pay, and she left. Well, that's disappointing. And I do wonder where that story is today. Remember, Sam Nunn was the editor of the Pittsburgh Courier, and he hired her to go and cover the trial. And then her part was ended abruptly when she and Nunn disagreed about her pay and she left. So it doesn't say anything about, hey, Roblox. It doesn't say anything about him or them disagreeing in terms of what she's writing, the tone of her story, or anything. It's disagreeing about pay. Now, we don't know whether or not that was just a smokescreen, right? It could have been. We don't know. Unable to pay independently to return for the appeal and second trial, Hurston contacted journalist William Bradford Huey, with whom she had worked at the American Mercury, to try to interest him in the case. He covered the appeal and second trial, and also developed material from a background investigation. Hurston shared her material with him for the first trial, but he acknowledged her only briefly in his book Ruby McCollum, Woman in the Sewanee Jail, 1956, which became a bestseller. Hurston celebrated that, quote, McCollum's testimony in her own defense marked the first time that a woman of African American descent was allowed to testify as to the paternity of her child by a white man. Hurston firmly believed that Ruby McCollum's testimony sounded the death toll of Paramour rights in the segregationist South. Hurston firmly believed that Ruby McCollum's testimony sounded the death toll of Paramour rights in the segregationist. Okay. All right, so that's the quote from the book, I think. It says up here Hurston celebrated that, but then down here it sounds like it's third person. It's not Hurston talking. It sounds like the book. It sounds like an excerpt is what I'm trying to say. Okay. Among other positions, Hurston later worked at the Pan American World Airways Technical Library at Patrick Air Force Base in 1956. She was fired in 1957 for being too well educated for her job. Oh my God. What next? She moved to Fort Pierce, Florida, taking jobs where she could find them. Hurston worked occasionally as a substitute teacher. Can you imagine her as a substitute teacher? What an exciting class that would be. At age 60, Hurston had to fight to, quote unquote, make ends meet with the help of public assistance. At one point, she worked as a maid on Miami Beach's Rivo Alto Island. Oh, at 60? Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Sweet lady. Okay, death and legacy. During a period of financial and medical difficulties, Hurston was forced to enter St. Lucie County Welfare Home, where she had a stroke. This woman should have been taken care of by, the patrons, by everybody, actually, by everyone. She died of hypertensive heart disease on January 28, 1960, and was buried at the Garden of Heavenly Rest in Fort Pierce, Florida. Her remains were in an unmarked grave until 1973. Her remains were in an unmarked grave until 1973. Novelist Alice Walker and fellow Hurston scholar Charlotte D. Hunt found an unmarked grave in 1997 in the general area where Hurston had been buried. They decided to mark it as hers. Let's see what this footnote says here. Charlotte Hunt renewed interest in author Hurston. Tallahassee Democrat, 1997. Okay. Walker commissioned a gray marker inscribed with Zora Neale Hurston, a genius of the South, novelist, folklorist, anthropologist, 1901 to 1960. The line, "A Genius of the South," is from Jean Toomer's poem Georgia Dusk, which appears in his book, Cain. Hurston was born in 1891, not 1901. So that was from when she went to high school and she lied. 10 years out, she lied about her age so she could get an education, a high school education. After Hurston's death, A yardman who had been told to clean the house was burning Hurston's papers and belongings. A law officer and friend, Patrick Duval, passing by the house where she had lived, stopped and put out the fire, thus saving an invaluable collection of literary documents. I wish we had a time of this, like a year. Hold on. 2020. Black History Month, Zora Neale Hurston died alone and her belongings almost burned. Now there is a festival in her name. Okay. For 2 years, thus saving an invaluable collection of literary documents. For 2 years, he stored them on his covered porch until he and a group of Hurston's friends could find an archive to take the material. The nucleus of this collection was given to the University of Florida Libraries in 1961 by Mrs. Marjorie Silver, a friend and neighbor of Hurston. Within the collection is a manuscript and photograph of Seraph on the Sewanee and an unpublished biography of Herod the Great. Luckily, she donated some of her manuscripts to the James Weldon Johnson collection of Yale University. Other materials were donated in 1970 and 1971 by Frances Grover, daughter of E.O. Grover, a Rollins College professor and longtime friend of Hurston. In 1979, Stetson Kennedy of Jacksonville, who knew Hurston through his work with the Federal Writers Project, added additional papers. Zora Neale Hurston Papers, University of Florida Smathers Libraries, August 2008. Okay. In 2017, comic creator Peter Bagg published a graphic novel based on her life and works called Fire, the Nora Zeal Hurston story. I'm going to buy that, like, as soon as I can. It was reviewed positively by NPR and other media outlets. Peter Bagg he's still with us. Peter Bagg, he's 67 years old now. He is a cartoonist, alternative cartoonist. He did the comic book called Hate, in the early 90s. That was one of my favorite comic books back then. So, or one of the ones that I read at the time. Okay. Literary career. Wait, where are we here? We still have a lot. Oh gosh. Wait a minute. It's already 11:23. All right, so we did Death and Legacy. Let's absorb everything we read and let's do a quote, because there's no way I'm going to finish reading this page today. Her quotes. If you go on to quotations by women, there's a lot of great quotes here, and it's hard to pick because she has a way with words, and she was not, just a Gothic writer. Her writings fall into a category of commentary on Imperial Gothic. It's not Imperial Gothic, which was like enforcing stereotypes of the savage, okay, and very colonialist, like pro-colonialist in viewpoint, okay. So her work was speaks directly to imperialist Gothic, speaks directly to imperial Gothic ideas, okay, and like the way that the themes, okay. So she's just like, it's like a kickback, because hers were, fully formed and not people as characters, obviously, and stuff like that. So let's look real quick, as I like to say, selected works. Let's look at selected works. We have, she has tons of writing. I think Their Eyes Were Watching God. I know that's her most popular, right? Well known. But gosh, there's so much here. Let me look up Zora Neale Hurston and Gothic. Race and regionalism drenched in light. Zora Neale Hurston. Let's read AI overview, shall we? Okay, Zora Neale Hurston's work is often described as a form of Southern Gothic, which she infused with her unique perspective on African American folklore and culture. Unlike traditional Gothic literature, her Gothic elements are not solely about decay and haunting, but are deeply rooted in superstitions, rituals, and spiritual beliefs found in hoodoo and voodoo. These traditions are used to explore themes of racial tension, power dynamics, and the human capacity for both profound beauty and haunting dread. Hurston's unique Gothic elements focus on folklore and ritual. Instead of European haunted castles, Hurston uses the spheres of hoodoo and voodoo culture to explore the supernatural. Tales often involve incantations, charms, and rituals as a way for marginalized people to enact change or seek justice. Their Eyes Were Watching God as a Southern Gothic novel. The novel is considered a prime example of Southern Gothic because it uses genre conventions, including racial tension, power dynamics, and the mythic monstrous beings of the American South, to explore themes of self-discovery, according to Fiction Unbound. De-emphasizing the white Gothic tropes, Hurston's work often subverts traditional Gothic narratives. While some scholars refer to Gothic horror in her work to describe the darker elements, her approach avoids demonizing Black characters, notes Cambridge University Press and Assessment. Instead, she uses the traditions of her own culture to explore the darker aspects of the reality and human experience. And then Gothic as a metaphor for the human condition. Her work uses the supernatural and grotesque not just for horror, but to highlight the often brutal realities of Black life and culture in the American South and West Indies. The Gothic in her work is a way to explore the often distorted codes of ethics and behavior that exist in a society fraught with racial justice. Okay. So you could really dig in here and read a lot about Zora. So yeah, there's a lot to explore. I don't know if she is on Librivox. I think I looked and I forgot. I think I did prepare a few links in my... Let's draw. I did prepare a few links in the description, so it should be able... You should be able to see in there. Whether or not she's on Librivox, I think it should be in there. There's so much I want to read here. I'm not going to do it right now. I'm going to draw. Let's see. What do we got here? Folklore is the boiled down juice or pot liquor of human living. A done been in sorrow's kitchen and a done licked out all the pots. Oh, Faith hasn't got no eyes, but she's long-legged. Tain't nothing I hate like getting sin thrown in my face that done got cold. Ain't nothing I hate like getting sin thrown in my face that done got cold. Lord, how some folks can lie. They don't wait to find out a thing. Some of them so expert on minding folks' business that they can look at the smoke coming out of your chimney and tell you what you're cooking. Lord, how some folks can lie. They don't wait to find out a thing. Some of them so expert on minding folks' business that they can look at the smoke coming out of your chimney and tell you what you're cooking. Oh my God. Nobody pushed them uphill, but everyone was willing to lend a hand on the downward shove. Oh my God. Oh, that's torturous. Nobody pushed him uphill, but everyone was willing to lend a hand on the downward shove. Oh. Distance is the only cure for certain diseases. Ain't that the truth? Don't you love nobody better than you do yourself? You'll be dying before your time is out. Her tongue is hung in the middle and works both ways. Oh my God. Belief in magic is older than writing, so nobody knows how it started. Oh, belief in magic is older than writing, so nobody knows how it started. That's a good one. An envious heart makes a treacherous ear. There are years that ask questions and years that answer. I love that one. I love all these. I mean, and they're so succinct, and they're so like intimately written because they're written in the dialect, but they're also so powerful. You know what I'm saying? Wow. Okay. There are years that ask questions and years that answer. Oh, what are we doing? What are we doing? Women forget all those things they don't want to remember and remember everything they don't want to forget. Oh my God. Women forget all those things they don't want to remember and remember everything they don't want to forget. Learning without wisdom is a load of books on a donkey's back. Slogans can be worse than swords if they are only put in the right mouths. That's true. Once you wake up thought in a man, you can never put it to sleep again. Fighting is a game where everybody is the loser. She all dressed up so till it would take a doctor to tell her how she is dressed to death. Silence is all the genius a fool has. Happiness is nothing but everyday living seen through a veil. Oh my gosh. Happiness is nothing but everyday living seen through a veil. Wow, that's a good one. Want won't kill you half as quick as worry will. Do you see what I mean? Like, you can just sit here and read these. I wish I could buy for you what you are really worth and sell you for what you think you're worth. I sure would make money on the deal. I wish I could buy you for what you are really worth and sell you for what you think you're worth. I've been through living for years. I just ain't dead yet. It seems like the first law of nature is that everyone likes to receive things, but nobody likes to feel grateful. The present was an egg laid by the past that had the future inside its shell. The present was an egg laid by the past. Okay, mind blown. Mind blown. What a writer. All her life, my daughter's been going around looking for a throne to sit on. That's good. Oh, every heart has its graveyard. Oh my God, these are so good. Oh my God. Oh my God. Zora. Why am I calling you Nora? Do you know, like, for the first 2 weeks of Inktober, I thought of her name as Nora. I'm like, wait a minute. I'm wrong. It's Zora Neale, not Nora Zeal. She's a genius. She is a genius writer. I'm going to look up... That one blew my mind. They all blow my mind. Oh my goodness. Every heart has its graveyard. Wow. Okay, we're doing that. Every heart has its graveyard. We're doing Every Heart Has Its Graveyard, and I'm going to grab this again. We're going to do it. We're going to do Every Heart Has Its Graveyard. We're going to find it. Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Come on, come on, come on. Every Heart Has Its Graveyard. Moses Man of the Mountain, 1939. Every Heart Has Its Graveyard. Wow! That like blows my mind. Oh my god. That blows my mind. I'm screenshotting that. And now we're going to go to Unsplash real quick. Unsplash. Unsplash. Or we can just look up Graveyard, because really this is going to be super loosey-goosey artwork here. Let's just look up old Graveyard and see what we get, okay? And then we go to pictures, images. Okay. Old Graveyard. Oh my gosh. We went to Ireland. My husband Matt and me, like in 2019. No. 2000, was it 21? It was after my hip operations, and it was also after COVID, so oh, it was maybe 3 years ago, 4 years ago. Anyway, it was amazing. And what's my point? My point is that we went to just the graveyard. Amazing graveyards. Super, super old graveyards. Oh my goodness. Oh, I love this. I love this quote. I mean, I'm just like mind blown right now. I am mind blown right now. We're just going with our marker. We're going in with the Permapaque marker. And oh my gosh, this is just so powerful. This quote is just, it's wild. I'm just going to be quiet for a little bit while I work this out, because I am literally flying by the seat of my pants here. Like, I'm not planning this composition. I'm not doing anything like that. I am literally just going in. I'm just going in. We're just going in. Because that is part of the fun of art sometimes. It's just let it happen, you know? Just do it. Well, I have a lot of exploration to do about Zora Neale. And I need to stop thinking. I see the word Nora in my mind. In fact, how I remembered to call her Zora and not Nora is because I had to remind myself that it's the one that you think sounds like a name you haven't heard before, and that's Zora. Nora I have obviously heard before, but Zora is a new one on me, and that was how I remembered. That was how I was like, I think I misspelled her name. You know? I'm not going to misspell her name anymore. I'm just going to draw gravestones. We're just going to do some gravestones. if you ever go to an old graveyard, right? They have the most incredibly like detailed, carved, what's the word I'm looking for? Like lettering, and the actual gravestones themselves are so amazing. They're such works of art, really. And then sometimes there's these really tall ones that look like, they look like this, like a needle. They look like the spire in Dublin. They're just like these wild ones. Let's do that. So you can just kind of make up your own, you know? Make up your own little shapes. And let's go back to our quotes. Excuse my arm. Let's go back to our quotes. Every heart has its graveyard. This is really incredible. Let's make it look like these are like dripping, kind of like that. Oh, you know what could be cool? What if we did some like ink drip? Let's do some ink drip, but we're gonna do it later. We're gonna do it at the end, maybe. We'll do some ink drippy at the end, because I love that. I love an ink drip. And let's use, oh yeah, let's use our pen. I love to use my marker like a stamp, and make it look kind of like creepy, like that. Like it looks like it's a print, you know? I love that. And then we can add some texture like that. And then also it makes it look like that has that feeling, like it feels like old, forgotten about, you know, like it's like somebody forgot that they needed tending to, and then they're just like falling apart, you know, like they're growing moss and they're getting like all this lime on them, and they're just, let's do one up here, and then like that. They're just like, I would like to add some gate. I would love to add some gate, but I think I'm not going to do that right now, because maybe that's better added later. Like if I do maybe like gate like that. So, and then maybe like some water. We'll add some water, and we'll do some bloom. We'll do some ink bloom. What do you think? Like that idea? Let's do it. Let me get some water here. Get some water going. Get some water. First, I'm gonna put my ink in here. I'm gonna get a nice paper towel. Put a little ink in here. Here we go. Isn't that delicious looking? Yum. Let's have some delicious ink. Okay, I have this nice dirty paper towel. Use your paper towels until they're just filthy. Use your paper towels until they're filthy. And now we're going to do some blooming, and I hope that this is going to work out well today, because I'm gonna be honest, and I've said this all month, all last month during my Inktober, that like I bought this paper for this purpose. I bought this paper for Inktober, and I kind of don't love it. I mean, it's fine, right? It's fine. It's okay. Oh, whoop. Dropping everything. It's fine, but it's just not my favorite. You know what I mean? I prefer to have paper that is, I prefer mixed media. I prefer a thicker paper. I want a paper with a little more texture on there. A paper that is going to give me some absorption. This paper is very thin. I understand the concept, right? I do understand the concept of having it for as pen and ink paper. I get it. You know, it's smooth. It's a smooth paper. It's smooth. It's very, very smooth. It's very flat. But, you know. Oh my God, I love this. Oh, look at this. Oh my God, I love it. I love it. I love that. That is what I love. Let's do that again. We're going to do it again. We're going to do it. I don't want too much ink on my thing. I'm going to do it. I love that. I love it. I'm going to do it over here. And I still have to write my quote in. So I haven't done that yet. I got to do that. I love those streaks. Oh, they're so awesome. I'm going to scooch you down a little bit so you can see a little better, hopefully. Right, like that. And let's just keep going. Let's just keep going here. Like, can we get some more of these? Can we get some more of these nice streakies? I love the streaks. Let's bring in a little more ink. We want a little dry. Oh, okay, okay. Maybe that was a little too much. Ooh, love it. Ooh, I love it. Oh my God, I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. Okay. All right. What are we doing here? Let's just go in because I want to really create atmosphere and it's not really going to work. If this is just white, we have to bring in some action over here. Got to bring in some action over here. So I have a place to put my quote because I can't very well like, see, if I write my quote with my ink, like with my liquid ink there, it's going to, oh, that looks good. It's going to be like watery, like it's going to bleed. What's my point? What would be the point of what I'm trying to say? So I need to, if I do a bloom, right? If I do bloom here, we could run a risk of some overwetting. We could run a risk of like not having a place to put what we want to say. So let's just do a little over here. Okay, that's good. That's working for me. And then maybe we can like dab it, do a little dab. Ooh, look at that. It looks like a sun. Oh my God, it looks like a black hole sun. Why don't you come, right? Like the song says, looks like a black hole sun. Okay. I'm just having fun more with, I'm having some fun here with my pulls. I'm just going to call these my pulls because that's what they are. And I have a jar full of water, and I don't want to get it all dirty. So luckily I have my paper down here. I love having paper on my work surface because when I do that, it protects it. So it gives me what I want. I want protection from okay, let's do this. Let's do that. Let's do, okay, I'm just going to do a little bit of that and a little bit of that. Just dry in a little bit of dabbing to get some of this stuff dried out. I like this sort of design element of these like vertical vertical lines like this. I do like that. I am a fan. Okay. This is working for me. It's giving me what I want. Hey, let's see if I pull my brush. If I pull my brush, if I clean my brush, and then I pull it on one of those lines, see what happens here. Okay. Hey, if you're new here, we just did Zora Neale Hurston, and we're about to draw one of her quotes in this composition I'm doing here. And can you imagine where we're going to draw? We're going to do it right here. Got this little spot right here. That is just so like bittersweet. Not even sweet, but just sort of heartbreaking a little bit that she didn't even have a marker until Alice Walker came along and decided, hey, you know, like, what are we doing here? What are we doing here? This person's so important. Like their teachings and their research, and you just gonna forget this person? You know? Okay, good. All right, let's do it. So luckily, this is a nice short quote, short and impactful and extremely visually It's got a lot of visual, what's the word I'm looking for? How come I can't think of the word I'm looking for here? Let's see if we bleed. I think we might bleed. Every heart. How do we want to do it? This? I think so. Like this. I'm going to do it like this. I'm going to zoom you over here. There we go. I mean, this is like the money shot, right? We want to see it. We want to see. I'm going to move all my pens. I need room for my hand here. Every heart. Every heart has a graveyard. Oh my gosh. I'm still like reeling over this quote. I'm just actually dipping. I'm using a this is a Pentel pocket brush pen, and I am actually a little dry in here. I need to refill it, and I'm just really dipping it. I'm dipping it into my ink. I'm gonna finish our H here. Every heart. Let's leave it like that. Let's do actually. I'm not a proponent of making like dots with my brush pen because you can't really make dots with a brush pen. If we are being very honest, you cannot make dots. You can make little V's. You can make little pointy things, but you're really not gonna make dots because they're just not real dottable. What are we doing here? Let's see. I mean, I just picked up a brush that is like also not dottable, so why am I doing this? Okay, I just introduced this new design element here that I'm gonna just add a little bit here around, right? Let's deal with that after. I want to do more lettering here. Every heart has a graveyard. Has its graveyard. Every heart has its graveyard. That is powerful. Every heart. Ooh, look what happened there. Cool. All right. Every heart has its I know I'm not doing push-pull very well here. I'm doing push a lot. Talking about with my brush pen. And yeah. I'm not getting too worried about it right now though. Because we're just going in. Okay. And I'm kind of using it as a little bit of a stamp too. See? That's fun to do. I like how it adds that element of like, it just adds that crunch that you're looking for, you know? Every heart has its, And now let's really stamp it up here. In fact, we're stamping it up so much that I'm actually sort of great. And then I'm going to do the E like I did before. Like that. Kind of a cool way to do your E. And then my Y like that. And A and then R and then D. I think do I want to do a uppercase or lower? I think uppercase might be more impactful for me at this stage. I think it's a little more what I'm looking for. There we go. All right. And then we're going to write Zora. Why do I keep doing that? Zora Neale Hurston. First, we're going to strengthen some of these. We want to add a little impact. And I have an idea what I'm going to do. Unfortunately, my water's all dirty now, but I'm just going to give it a shot and see if I can do a little bloom here. See if I can do a little bloom. There we go. Oh, yeah, I like that. I like that. Let's do this. Ooh, I love that. I love it. I love it. I love it. I'm just going to keep adding ink so we make sure that we have our letters. And then we're going to write Zora. Neale. Hold on. Let me zoom you in a little bit. We are far away from what we're doing here. Okay. Better, better. Zora. 'Zora Neale Hurston. I think we need to do a bloom here because it really wants to be. Oh, there we are. Nice. Okay. And then we'll do like a blob there. There we go. And now we're going to write Moses Man of the Mountain. Smaller, smaller. And mountain. $19.39. 1939. Okay, nice. Now, how do we want to emphasize or de-emphasize? Maybe, hold on, I'm just going to put this underneath here so you can see a little better. Thinking maybe like wash out a little bit here, add a little water, So we can have a little bit of a bloom there. And then I think I might want a little bit more. I think I might want to make her last name a little stronger. H. There we go. Every heart has its graveyard. Excellent. Okay, we're good. This is it. We done. We are done with today's quote. Let me zoom out. Let's zoom it out. So let's look at what we did here. All right. We have Zora Neale Hurston. We have every heart has its graveyard. We can show closer up. Let me turn the light up a little bit. Maybe that helps. I'm not sure. Drippy, stampy, and very tasty. So I hope you guys have an awesome day. I think I'm gonna go on to my Night Garden Fairy Cats in a little bit. This one went really long. You notice they're getting longer and longer. It's 12:07 already. Oh my. Been on here for almost 2 hours. And we're good. We did this today. We did Zora Neale Hurston. And I'm just going to correct some of my letters here that got wet. And I might need to do that again when they get fully dry. But like, what an amazing woman. What an amazing writer. And I mean, just like, never give up. Look at Zora Neale Hurston. Don't give up. Keep trucking. Keep talking to people. Keep communicating, you know? I mean, that's really struck me with her, is her, not just her ability, but just, she was just so, she just didn't give up, you know? She could have. She didn't. She could just give up when things don't go your way. And I think that that is something that I have, that has stuck with me with a lot of these authors, is tenacity, right? Tenacity and stubbornness in the best possible way. Stubborn. Because you gotta be stubborn, baby. You gotta be stubborn. You gotta be... You got to stick it out. You gotta work. The graveyard looks hard to read. I'm gonna try and clean it up a little bit here. I might have to clean it up better after this is dry, but this is what we got. I hope you have a great day. I'll be back tomorrow with Mary E. Wilkins Freeman. She's a makeup day. So we're going to do her tomorrow. And then we're going to do Ethelina White. So, and then we got a new month, we're going to have a new theme, and we're going to have a new project. So I'm still hammering that out. I'm still rolling ideas around, and I have to come to a conclusion. I have to do that. That's my goal for the next couple days. Gotta figure it out and get things going. And then we're going to start a new one. We're going to start a new project. Do you guys want me to keep doing... Do you want me to keep doing this? Should I keep doing biographies and quotes of writers? I'm really enjoying it. If you're interested in my thoughts about it, I'm really enjoying it. I am learning so much, and my main thing is knowing, like, I think maybe creating a new template for doing this, whereas I have been going off the rails in terms of time and reading full Wikipedia pages almost, or editing as I go. I'm wondering if, I mean, I have some ideas in my head about ways to consolidate things. So, but I'm not sure if it's like the best thing. So, let me know your thoughts. And we need to close this up right now, so I'm not going to go over those, but let me know if you're interested in doing more quotes of authors that we know and love, and you want to know a little bit about their life and get more into where they're coming from with these things that they wrote. So I love that. It just makes it so much more prismatic and like deep, you know? Like you just get so much more out of it. So have a great day. I'll be back tomorrow, and I'm going to be on at some point this afternoon doing Night Garden Fairy Cats, probably in the next hour or so. Finishing the cover, still working on the cover. And I will see you soon. Bye-bye. Happy November 1st.